I don't know why I thought that things would stay the same, that they would stay simple. I guess I was always the type of person who thought love and relationships should be effortless. I'd seen the movies, read the books, and thought that everything should fall into place if you just try hard enough. But it doesn't work like that, does it? It all started at work. My name is Claire, and I work as a marketing manager for a pretty large firm in downtown Seattle. It's the kind of job where you spend more hours at the office than at home, and your coworkers become your second family. Or, at least, that's how I saw it at the time. Everyone there is friendly, and you spend so much time together that you start to open up about your life. I never thought anything could happen. I'm married to Aaron, and he's a great guy. Or, at least, he used to be. But there was something about Chris. Chris was new to the company. He was younger than me, tall, with dark eyes that seemed to always have this mischievous glint to them. He wasn't trying to get attention, but it was impossible not to notice him. I was drawn to him immediately. He had this quiet confidence that I found intriguing. It was subtle, but it was there. At first, I just thought he was a good colleague. We'd work together on a few projects, share ideas, and exchange the usual pleasantries. But then something changed. We started talking more. At first, it was just about work, but as the weeks went by, the conversations became more personal. He was easy to talk to, and I realized I was laughing more around him than I had in months. It felt good to feel like myself again. Don't get me wrong. I loved Aaron. He was sweet and caring, and we had been together for years. But lately things had become predictable. We'd go to the same restaurants, do the same things on weekends, and it felt like we were stuck in this loop. There was no excitement, no spark, and I guess I started to miss that feeling of being wanted, of feeling special. With Chris, I felt that again. It wasn't intentional. Not at first. I didn't set out to flirt with him, to lead him on. But there were moments. Little moments where our eyes would meet across the office, or when he'd give me a compliment that made my heart skip a beat. I wasn't used to that, and, of course, it felt good. But I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong. I'd never cheat on Aaron, not in a million years. I loved him. I convinced myself that I was just being friendly, that it was harmless. But somewhere along the line, it stopped being harmless. I started to find reasons to hang out with Chris after work, to grab drinks, to talk about things that weren't work-related at all. And those moments turned into longer talks, and before I knew it, I was looking forward to seeing him. One Friday evening, we went for drinks after a particularly long week. Aaron had stayed home, tired from his own work, so it was just me and Chris. We went to this little bar downtown that had a cozy vibe and dim lighting. The conversation flowed easily, and the next thing I knew, we were both laughing and sharing stories that felt so personal. I told him about my childhood, about my fears, about the things I missed. I felt like I could be honest with him in a way I hadn't been in so long. And then, without even thinking, I kissed him. It wasn't some passionate, dramatic kiss. It was quick, just a brush of our lips, but it sent a shockwave through me. I pulled back, surprised at myself, but Chris didn't pull away. He just looked at me, his eyes intense. I knew right then that things were never going to be the same. We didn't talk about it immediately. In fact, we didn't talk about it at all. The next few days were a blur of guilt and confusion. I went home to Aaron, and everything felt wrong. I tried to pretend that nothing had changed, but I couldn't shake the memory of that kiss. It felt like I was carrying around this huge secret, this weight that I couldn't unload. I was still texting Chris, still talking to him during the day at work, but I started to feel this rising anxiety every time I saw Aaron. I couldn't look him in the eye without feeling like I was betraying him, but I also couldn't stop the pull I felt toward Chris. It wasn't about just physical attraction. It was deeper than that. It was the way he made me feel alive, like I was seen in a way I hadn't been in years. I started to lie to Aaron. Small lies at first, about where I was going after work, about who I was with. Nothing huge, just enough to cover up the time I was spending with Chris. But every time I lied, I felt a little more like a stranger to myself. I didn't think it would go any further. I really didn't. But the more time I spent with Chris, the harder it became to ignore the feelings growing inside me. And then one night, it happened again, Only this time, it wasn't just a kiss. It happened so quickly, and yet, it felt like everything had been leading up to that moment. That second kiss was nothing like the first. It wasn't quick. It wasn't a fleeting thing. It was deliberate, full of all the things I'd been avoiding. Desire, confusion, guilt, and something else I didn't even want to acknowledge yet. But there it was, hanging between us. We had gone out to dinner after work one evening, just the two of us. Chris was charming, funny, and easy to talk to. We were at this small, dimly lit Italian restaurant. The kind where you're almost forced to have a conversation because it's so intimate. I remember everything about that night. His laugh, the way he leaned in when he spoke, the way he touched my arm when he was telling a joke. It felt familiar and new all at once. At some point, I couldn't deny it anymore. The tension had been building up for weeks, and my heart was racing as I realized that I wanted this. Not just wanted it, I needed it. I was already in too deep, and yet, I didn't know how to stop. We walked out of the restaurant, the night air cool against our skin. We didn't speak for a while. There was no need for words. We just walked side by side, our footsteps echoing in the empty streets. I knew that this wasn't just about a kiss. This was something bigger, and I didn't know how to handle it. When we reached his apartment building, he turned to me. His eyes were searching, asking for something without saying a word. And for the first time, I didn't hesitate. I kissed him. This time, it wasn't an accident or a moment of weakness. It was a choice, and I was choosing him. It felt so wrong and yet so right at the same time. The guilt hit me almost immediately, but it wasn't enough to pull me away. I wanted to feel wanted, desired. I wanted to escape the mundane, the predictability of my life with Aaron. With Chris, everything felt exciting, unpredictable. For the first time in so long, I felt like I was living in the moment. But it wasn't just physical. After that kiss, we stayed up for hours talking. It was like everything I had been holding in, about my life, my marriage, my fears, came spilling out. Chris was listening, not judging, just listening. And I realized I hadn't had someone really listen to me in years. Aaron and I had drifted so far apart that even when we were together, we weren't really together. He was distant, wrapped up in his own world, and I was just there. And then there was Chris. He was there every day. At work, yes, but also outside of work. He had become this constant, this thing I couldn't ignore, no matter how hard I tried. And I hated myself for it. I hated how easily I was slipping into this affair, how easily I was lying to Aaron. But I couldn't stop. The next few weeks were a blur of secret meetings, stolen moments, and the constant fear of being caught. Every time I went home to Aaron, I felt like I was wearing a mask. I'd smile, act normal, and try to ignore the gnawing feeling in my stomach. But when I was with Chris, I felt alive. I was no longer the tired, bored version of myself that had become so familiar. I was someone else, a version of me that was daring, exciting, and free. But then came that day, the day everything changed. I remember it so clearly. Aaron had come home early from work, and I wasn't expecting it. I was in the kitchen, just finishing up dinner, when he walked in. He looked tired, his face etched with the stress of the week, but he smiled when he saw me. "Hey, babe," he said, dropping his briefcase on the couch. "How was your day?" "Good," I said too quickly. I tried to make my voice sound normal, but I knew it was off. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I felt that familiar sense of dread wash over me. We had dinner, but it was awkward. I could feel Aaron trying to make conversation, but it felt forced, like we were both trying to pretend things were fine. And then out of nowhere, Aaron asked me about a picture. I froze. "Claire, is there something you want to tell me?" His voice was calm, but I could hear the edge in it. He was holding his phone in his hand, the screen showing the photo, the one from the office party, the one of me and Chris, laughing, standing close together. It had been taken months ago, but there was no mistaking the chemistry between us in that photo. It was obvious, and now Aaron had seen it. I panicked. I tried to play it cool, but my mind was racing. How had he found it? Why hadn't I deleted it? But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. "It's just a picture, Aaron," I said quickly, trying to brush it off. "It's nothing. Chris and I were just joking around." He didn't buy it. "Claire, this isn't funny. Why didn't you tell me about this? Why didn't you mention Chris? Why are you hiding things from me? I could see the hurt in his eyes, the disappointment, and I realized in that moment that it wasn't just about the photo. It was about everything else. The lies, the secrecy, the fact that I had let myself drift so far from him. And then came the words I never thought I'd hear. Are you sleeping with him? The question hit me like a punch in the stomach. I didn't know how to answer. The air between us thickened. Time seemed to stop as Aaron stood there, looking at me with those eyes I used to love. But now they were full of hurt, confusion, and something else I couldn't ignore. I didn't know how to answer his question. I didn't want to answer it, but the silence, the tension, it was unbearable. I had to say something. No, I whispered, barely able to meet his gaze. No, I haven't slept with him. I could tell that Aaron wanted to believe me. He looked at me for a long moment, as if trying to read me, trying to figure out if I was telling the truth. But I knew that the damage had already been done. I could see the doubt in his eyes, and I hated myself for it. Then why does it feel like you're lying to me? His voice cracked, just for a second. And in that moment, I saw it. The shattered look on his face, the realization that I hadn't been honest with him for so long. I was breaking him. I felt sick, like I'd just been caught in a web I'd spun myself, and now there was no way out. I wanted to fix it, to explain myself, but the words wouldn't come. How could I explain? How could I tell him that I was so bored, so lost, that I had let myself fall into the arms of another man? How could I tell him that I had let myself feel desired, wanted, like I was more than just the wife who did the laundry and cooked dinner? I didn't mean for this to happen. I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't supposed to go this far, Aaron. I swear. But my words felt hollow, empty, because I knew that even if he wanted to believe me, the trust was already gone. I'd broken it piece by piece over the past few months. Aaron didn't speak for what felt like an eternity. He just stood there, staring at me, as if he was trying to process everything. His eyes were red, and I could see that he was holding back tears. I could feel the weight of his disappointment, his anger, and it felt like 1,000 pounds pressing down on me. I had no excuses. No way to justify what I had done. I had cheated on him emotionally, even if I hadn't crossed the line physically. But that didn't matter, did it? The damage was done, and it was too late to undo it. Finally, he spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what to say to you right now, Claire. I don't know what's real anymore. You've been lying to me for months. You've been hiding this from me. I don't even recognize you. Those words cut through me like a knife. It was as if I was hearing my own betrayal from someone else's mouth, and it was too much to bear. I could feel the tears threatening to come, but I held them back. I didn't deserve to cry. I deserved to feel the pain he was feeling, the confusion, the heart itch. Because I had done this. I had pushed him away. I had driven him to this point. I'm sorry, I said again, my voice barely audible. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. He shook his head, his eyes full of frustration. Sorry doesn't change anything. Sorry doesn't make this go away, Claire. I didn't know how to make it better. I didn't know how to fix what I had broken. All I wanted in that moment was to turn back time, to undo everything. But there was no way to do that. I had made my choices, and now I had to live with the consequences. I couldn't look at him anymore. I couldn't bear to see him like this, so broken, so lost. I had taken away his trust, and I knew it would take more than just words to rebuild it. It was going to take time, and I didn't know if we had that kind of time. Aaron, please, I pleaded. I'm begging you, don't leave me. I'll do anything. I'll make it right. I swear I'll make it right. But his eyes told me everything I needed to know. He was already gone. He wasn't physically leaving yet, but emotionally, he had already checked out. He stepped back from me, putting distance between us. I need some time, Claire. I need space to think. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if I can forgive you. And just like that, the room felt emptier than I had ever felt in my entire life. I could see him retreating, slowly but surely, and it terrified me. I tried to stop him. Aaron, please. I love you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was lost. I was stupid. Please. But he just turned away and walked out of the room. The door closed behind him with a soft thud, and I was left standing there, completely alone. I collapsed onto the couch, the tears I had been holding back finally spilling over. I couldn't stop them, couldn't stop the sobs that racked my body. I had destroyed everything. I had destroyed him, and in the process, I had destroyed us. I knew I had crossed a line, but I couldn't undo it. No matter how much I wished I could go back, I couldn't. I had made my choice, and now I had to live with it. But as I sat there, crying, part of me couldn't help but think about Chris. I knew I had messed up with Aaron, but I also knew that I couldn't just erase what had happened with Chris. The attraction was still there. The pull was still there. I had betrayed Aaron, but in my heart, I still felt connected to Chris in a way I couldn't explain. But it didn't matter now. What mattered was the mess I had made, the trust I had shattered. I had no one left. I sat there for hours in that silent, empty house, the weight of everything sinking in deeper with each passing minute. The sadness was suffocating, but it wasn't just sadness that filled the room. It was guilt, shame, regret, all of it crashing down on me like a storm that wouldn't stop. I kept replaying the moments when everything went wrong in my mind. How had I allowed it to go this far? How had I convinced myself that what I was doing wasn't as bad as it really was? I hadn't just betrayed Aaron. I had betrayed myself. At some point, I stopped crying. It didn't matter anymore. The tears wouldn't change anything. I could feel the rawness of the situation in every part of my body, every breath I took, and yet I couldn't stop thinking about Chris. Even as Aaron's image, his hurt, his disappointment, burned in my mind, Chris's face lingered there too. What had I done? Was this all just a fleeting moment of weakness, or had I really let myself fall for someone else? I wasn't sure, but it didn't matter now, did it? After what felt like forever, I heard the sound of keys jingling outside the door. Aaron had returned. He walked in, his eyes tired, but now there was something colder in them. He didn't even look at me as he passed through the living room. I could tell he was trying to hold it together, trying not to break down again in front of me. The silence between us was deafening. I couldn't stand it any longer. I stood up, my legs shaky, and tried to catch up to him. Aaron, please, talk to me. We can work this out. I know I've made a mess of everything, but He cut me off. His voice firm, but with an edge of pain. I don't know if we can, Claire. I don't know if I can look at you the same way again. You lied to me for months. You let this happen. I don't even know who you are anymore. His words sliced through me like glass. I wanted to defend myself, to explain, but I knew that nothing I could say would change how he felt. He was right. I had lied. I had let this happen. I'm sorry. I whispered again. The words felt like an echo, like a hollow apology that didn't really mean anything anymore. Aaron stood still for a moment, his shoulders sagging with exhaustion, both physical and emotional. Then he turned around slowly, his eyes meeting mine for the first time since our argument. The look in his eyes was something I hadn't seen before. Deep disappointment, yes, but also a resignation. Like he knew this wasn't just a moment of conflict, it was the end of something. I don't know what happens now, Claire. I need time. A lot of time. He shook his head, his voice quieter now. And I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can go back to the way things were. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes again, but I didn't dare speak. What could I say? I couldn't make him forgive me. I couldn't make him forget what I had done. The trust was broken, and even if I didn't want to face it, I knew deep down that things had changed forever. And then, as if he couldn't take another second in this space with me, he grabbed his jacket and walked out, leaving me standing there. The door clicked shut behind him, and that sound, the finality of it, was the worst thing I'd ever heard. I sank onto the couch again, feeling completely empty. My thoughts drifted, but they always came back to the same place, Chris. As much as I wanted to block him out of my mind, I couldn't. I was tangled in this mess of emotions, of longing, of guilt. I still cared about him, but caring about him didn't mean I didn't love Aaron. Didn't mean I wasn't breaking for what I'd done to him. But then a darker thought crossed my mind. Was I still capable of fixing this with Aaron? Could I even try to win back his trust, if he was willing to give it? Or was the damage too deep? Even if I could somehow make things right with him, would it be the same? Could we ever be the same? I didn't know. I honestly didn't know. The next few days felt like a blur. Aaron stayed away. I didn't know where he went, or who he was with, but I knew it was only a matter of time before he made a decision. I stayed home, constantly caught in my own guilt, thinking back to every single moment when I should have stopped before things went too far. Every time I lied, every time I hid something from him, it weighed me down more and more. And yet, as much as I tried to focus on my marriage, I still found myself reaching for my phone, looking at messages from Chris. I had told him I needed space, that I couldn't talk to him right now, but the temptation was there, always there. There was a part of me that felt like I was running away from the hard truth, the truth that I had ruined everything with Aaron, and chasing something that was never going to be easy. With Chris, everything was new and everything was exciting, but that didn't make it right. I finally got the courage to send Aaron a message. I know I've messed up. I know I've hurt you. But I'm here when you're ready to talk. Please, just know that I love you. I always have. And I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. But I can't do it alone. I didn't know if he would respond. And in some ways, I wasn't sure if I wanted him to. The fear of his response was paralyzing. But the waiting, the uncertainty, being stuck in this limbo, it was unbearable. Days passed. Then, just as I was about to give up, I saw the text from him. It was simple. It was cold. We'll talk soon. I'm still processing everything. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what soon meant. I didn't know if I could fix it, or if I had already lost him forever. But I knew one thing for sure. I had crossed a line, and now I had to face the consequences. Whatever happened next, I would have to live with it. And so, as the days dragged on, I waited. I waited for Aaron to decide what was next for us. And I waited to figure out what my heart was really telling me.